Welcome everybody to Doc of Detox show, and this is PetStar. I'm Dr. Darrell Wolfe, and I'm with my co-host, the amazing Dr. Marlene Siegel. She is here to give you the truth about pets. Today, our show is called a grain-free diet healthy for your pets. Marlene Siegel, Dr. Marlene Siegel, and myself, we decided that we needed to bring this show and to have this show on a regular basis. Because as we all know, human health is failing. We've never been so sick. But did you know that the pets are even sicker than their human counterparts? Understand this, that somebody has to speak up for these guys, okay? Somebody's got to speak up for these pets that have unconditional love for us. Before I start, I would like to give you something to think about. Just as our children teach us unconditional love, so do our pets. Wouldn't it be amazing if we could be more like our pets and the children that we love? Food for thought. What are your thoughts on this, Dr. Siegel?
Oh, absolutely. These animals carry so much messaging, so many gifts to us, and we just have to really stop long enough and have gratitude for all the things that they can teach us.
Yeah, all life is precious, you know what? And this is something that I want adults to think about, okay? And that is that, when we have children, we don't own children. They are like little spirits that are trying to teach us about unconditional love, total love, okay? And to bring us back, because that's why we call adults adulterated, all right? And the same thing with our pets. So I want everybody to think about that, okay? These are just little spirits that are trying to bring us back into alignment. So just know this, that our phone lines are open, and our phone number is 888-570-9445. We are going to talk about grains in the diet, okay? But we already have a caller, so we're going to go to the caller, and let's see what she has to say. Hi.
Yes, hello. How are you?
I'm great.
Well, thank you so much for taking my call. I greatly appreciate it. Hello, Dr. Siegel.
Hi, how are you?
I'm quite well. Thank you so much for taking my call. And I do have a question for you about what I'm feeding my dogs. So I have two small dogs, and I was feeding them Stella and Chewy's raw patties, but due to the cost, I changed to the Stella and Chewy kibbles. Now, the bag says that they are raw coated, and of course, they're less expensive, but the bag also says that it's grain-free. Now, of course, I know there's a connection between the diets that we eat and the diets that we feed our pets. So, I trust Stella and Chewy. I just hope that I'm feeding them the right food. Should I be concerned? Should I have any concerns?
That is the perfect question that we would need for today. So, first of all, let me address Stella and Chewy's because I think that's an important piece of information here. This is a company that created the reputation on a raw diet. And so people have a tendency to trust the name, but we all have to be very discerning consumers and still pay attention because companies change. Companies do things that may not be the best. And this particular company a couple of years ago decided to leave their platform of raw and move into the platform of the kibble market. Please understand, a kibble is a kibble is a kibble is a kibble. There are worse kibbles, but it's still a kibble. So no matter what, this kibble is still exceedingly high in carbohydrates. It's devoid of digestive enzymes, which are necessary to break the food down. And it's devoid of any moisture. So if we have taken this name reputation of this company and people like yourself trusting that it is a raw pet food company, inadvertently are feeding their pets this diet. The second problem with their raw kibble coated product is that when these companies started taking grains out as a kibble, they had to put something else back in. And what they've done is they've added legumes. And legumes are things like peas and potatoes. And these legumes, when they are not pressure cooked correctly, and they are not in these diets, they contain lectins. And lectins are inflammatory. They're very, very inflammatory to our bodies and to our pets' bodies. Are your pets showing any symptoms of illness?
They are, yes. There's been some vomiting recently because I've had them 3 months only, and I started with the raw patty. But again, I changed about a month ago, 3 weeks ago or so, and recently they've been throwing up. Their stool is just not good. It's loose. It's dark, kind of reddish. So yes, I'm concerned. So that's why I was calling today.
Absolutely. So I hope this is resonating with a lot of people. Go read your bags of food. You have to really understand what you're feeding. And the only way to do that is by actually going in and reading the label. In that particular product, the top 4 ingredients, the top 4 out of 6 ingredients are legumes. So you're feeding a diet that is highly inflammatory, which means it's going to cause a syndrome we call leaky gut. And that means the permeability membrane that is separating the outside world and the inside world of your pet's body now has bombs going off. It's almost like taking a piece of cheesecloth and taking a pen and punching holes in the cheesecloth. If you were to try to strain your chicken soup with this cheesecloth that has a bunch of holes in it, you would get pieces coming through that were not allowed to come through before. And that's what's happening in the gut of your pet right now, is they have these big holes and these proteins are coming down. They're not properly broken down. There's a lot of inflammatory mediators being associated with them. They're coming into the body, the high carbohydrates. And when that's presented to the liver thinks it's under attack. So it mounts even more inflammation. And this becomes a vicious cycle. The more inflammation, the more leaky gut, the more leaky gut, the more inflammation. So the number one thing that you want to do is get them off of a grain-free diet, get them on a species-appropriate, organic, raw diet. And of course, you want to replace the microbiome. You want to get them on a probiotic. I prefer using a product like milk kefir, which, by the way, is not the same as what you buy in the stores. Kefir that you buy in the stores is made more like a yogurt, and it doesn't have that rich bacterial flora that we want. So we actually make kefir. It's a fermentation process that's done with special grains, and we use raw milk. But if you don't have access to raw milk, you can still use a whole milk organic product. Does that help?
All right. So yes, thank you. So you said organic and raw, and it shouldn't matter the brand, Stella and Chewy's or someone else, as long as it says organic and raw.
Thank you for making that more clear. So in a good species appropriate diet, it should be a properly balanced meat-based diet with meat, fat, organ, meat, and bone, all the essential vitamins, minerals, and fatty acids. You want it to be uncooked. If it's high pressure pasteurization, I'm okay with that. It just means that it's a 40-degree water bath that's killed the bacteria. But it's still raw, which means it still has enzymes in it to aid in the digestion of the food. And you want it to be from a organic and grass-fed source. And that's the criteria that you're looking for.
Thank you so much, Dr. Siegel. This was wonderful. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you for calling in and sharing that. I think that's a question that many, many people will have.
Yes, thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
So maybe you want to elaborate a little bit on the grain issue.
So years ago, the grains that we were using were not genetically modified, and they were mostly corn and soy, but they weren't genetically modified. So they still weren't good for our animals, but they weren't the high lectin content that we see now. So I think we've actually gone worse in the diet by doing grain-free and replacing them with the legumes, which are these high lectin products. And what's happening in the news right now is there's a lot of association of grain-free diets with dogs getting cardiomyopathy. This is a heart disease. And this heart disease has never been seen in volumes like we're seeing. And there's this affiliation with this grain-free diet. So right now, the FDA is researching and they're looking into it. And they don't really know what the problem is. Is it that these animals aren't able to produce the taurine, which is it's not actually an amino acid, but it's a building block. And are they not able to produce it like they're supposed to? Is there a blockage in the production? Is there a binding from chemicals? No one really knows what the answer is yet. But for some reason, these animals are becoming taurine deficient, and consequently, they're getting heart disease. It's in a large heart, and they're not able to function, and it is a fatal disease.
Well, maybe it's just, do you think maybe it's just as simple as inflammation? Maybe it's just too much inflammation for the body to actually handle. I mean, the body can handle inflammation, but not when it comes at it like continually.
In my personal opinion, and I haven't researched it, but I think what's happening is it's a combination of inflammation. And I think a lot of these diets, well, almost all of them are not organic. So I
Okay.
think we're getting the genetically modified organisms. We're getting glyphosate. We know glyphosate binds minerals, so they're not available. Even if they're in the diet, they're not available. And Stella and Chewy's uses synthetic vitamins and minerals.
Right.
So a lot of companies are cutting corners by doing synthetic products. So whichever the answer is, these animals aren't able to take the building blocks to produce the taurine that our bodies are supposed to be able to produce.
Right. And the glyphosate also opens up your digestive tract like a screen door in a submarine. And it
Yeah,
also can even open up your brain tissue to everything. So,
yeah, tremendous leaky brain, leaky gut.
yeah, we've got a caller. Go ahead, caller. Hi, caller.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good, and yourself?
Wonderful.
I have a question. My dog is due for his vaccinations. He's 2 years old, so he's due for his second round of vaccinations for heartworm, Lyme, Bordetella, and the last one, which I cannot pronounce, leptospirosis.
Leptospirosis.
I was reading, yeah, I was reading a lot of articles, and I saw that it's not necessary to get all of these vaccines. I was wondering if you could tell me a little more information. Should I get him vaccinated? Is it necessary?
Oh, fantastic question. And this is not going to be a right or wrong answer here. One of the things I try to help people to do is think about what your risk factors are. If you have a dog that lives in the top of a condo and their feet never touch outside, and you don't have other animals that they're in contact with, they never get walked outside, the chances of that animal picking up an infectious disease from another dog, pretty low. If you go to dog parks, if you're exposing your animal to a high concentration of disease, then you want to think about maybe your risk factors. Where do you live? Do you live in Connecticut where they have Lyme's disease rampant? So step number one is look at your risk factors. Step number two is make an educated decision based on those risk factors. Again, where do you live? Where are you going to take your pet? What kind of exposure they're going to have? Are they going to be going to boarding kennels or daycares? Then the second thing is to look at the diseases themselves. Which ones are going to be more likely to be harmful? Now, with the distemper and parvo, they are considered core vaccines, but they're not legally required by the law. So what we like to do is we get the initial vaccinations in as puppies, and then we run titers. It's a blood test to see whether or not they still have protective antibodies to indicate whether or not they do need to be vaccinated again. Rabies is required by law. I'm not going to ever tell somebody not to do a rabies shot because, God forbid, if your pet bites somebody and they are not protected, the law has the right to quarantine and possibly even euthanize if they feel like there's a risk there to humans' exposure to rabies. When it comes to leptospirosis, again, it's a disease that you have to look at risk factors. Do you live in an area where there have been a lot of cattle? Because that's one of the big spreads is urine from cows. Are you going to areas where it's a big issue? And what is the risk in your area? The next thing I would offer to people who really don't want to do vaccinations is to consider homoprophylaxis. And that's where we use homeopathic products to create a vaccine, but it's a different immune response than what a vaccine produces. So it's really, you can't compare them apples to apples and say, oh, my homeopathic is going to do the same response that my vaccination is. They don't work exactly the same way. And then something else that's in the middle of the road would be if you do vaccination. In my office, what we do is we do a homeopathic preparation to that vaccine that we give to mitigate the negative effects of the vaccine while we are using the vaccine in a prudent manner. Did that helpfully answer your question?
Yeah, I have just one more question. A few months ago, my dog, he was like very like limp, wasn't walking, just laying in bed all day, and I took him to the vet, and they said that they believe a tick had bitten him, so they gave us antibiotics, but I thought that the Lyme disease shot was supposed to protect him from that.
So the Lyme vaccine, I thought, was taken off the market because it was proven to be ineffective. But any vaccine that you give is not going to protect a pet. It's not its job. Its job is to help stimulate the immune system so that in the future exposure, the body has a quicker response. If your pet's immune system is not good, if it's not healthy, if you don't have a great microbiome, which is where 80% of the immune system lives, then your pet is not going to have a good stimulation to any vaccine. It doesn't matter how well they're vaccinated. So the most important thing that we want to really focus on is, does my pet have a healthy immune system? Am I feeding a species appropriate diet? Do I have an excellent microbiome? Am I supporting the immune system through herbs that are adaptogenic, like astragalus? Am I mitigating some of the toxins that my animal's being exposed to, which is stressing the immune system? So those are all really important factors that I would like people to think about first before they think about what vaccine should I shouldn't do. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Work on that immune system.
Thank you.
We have another caller. Go ahead. Go ahead, caller. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, this is Dr. Montano.
Hi. Go ahead with your question.
Hey, Doc. How are you?
Good. How about you? No,
Wonderful. I think you and I are going to Cuba
I'm
soon, aren't we?
with what Dr. Marlene is explaining.
Can you say that again?
I said that's a very interesting topic what she's talking about, and I'm agree with what she is saying about to do titers on animals and not to vaccinate them too much.
She's a veterinarian as well.
Excellent.
Yes. I'm glad to hear you, Dr. Marlene.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for calling in and supporting that. I hope more and more veterinarians start to pay attention to not just indiscriminately vaccinating, but actually thinking about what the risk exposure of the animal is, helping to educate clients, and then really working on the immune system more than the vaccines initially, so that when you do vaccinate, you actually have an immune system that works. So I just want to make one more point while I'm thinking about it, and that is, pet owners need to know that they should never have their animals vaccinated when their animals are not 100% healthy. And that includes ear infection, skin disease, recent vomiting, diarrhea, lethargy, running fevers, whatever that pet is having. If they are not 100% robust healthy, they should not be vaccinated. So not only should you not be taking them to the veterinarian just because you got a card that says they're due, but if you go and your veterinarian goes, oh, he's overdue for the flu shot or whatever, you don't vaccinate a sick animal. In fact, I'll give you a little cute segue here. Casey Krejci, who is the owner and developer of Living Fuels, he's developed our pet fuel product, which is going to be here launched very soon. And he ended up having, his dog was sick. They live in Orlando, which is about an hour and a half from me. And his dog wasn't feeling good. They went to go to the veterinarian, and the veterinarian looked at the records and said, oh, Mr. Krejci, your dog is overdue for vaccines. We need to vaccinate him for the flu. And Casey said, wait a minute, my dog is sick. You are seriously not going to tell me to vaccinate a sick dog. And they fired him as a client because he wouldn't vaccinate his dog. Well, the blessing here is that he ended up bringing his dog over to me, and we were able to work her up. The whole story is in The Truth About Pet Cancer. It was a wonderful story. And because of that, he ended up creating the pet fuel product, which we now use in conjunction with our raw meat diet to give the best nutrition on the planet for dogs and cats.
That's excellent. Well, you know what? Somebody's got to step up to the plate, and that's the thing. And the other thing too is, Dr. Siegel, when you do step up to the plate, that's when you can get people commenting in other, points of view, who might be losing money or losing people to your product in the future.
Well, what I see happening is that we are going to leave the path, shining the light down that whole long road of where we need to be for the pet food industry.
Absolutely.
And those who choose to follow, I would love them to try to catch up to us. That would be amazing because we could create better and better products.
Yeah, better products, and the more that, and the thing is that the more people that actually start feeding their pets properly, the more the price drops.
Absolutely. It's
And
price
that's
and
what people
demand.
do not understand is, as soon as the majority, or even 30% of the population, if 30% of the population were to move into feeding their pets properly, the prices would drop so much that everybody would say they wouldn't even think twice, because they'd be able to do it. Because it's always that way, when you can produce in volume. But you know what? If you want a healthy pet and you want to break free from the herd, then you know what? Sometimes you're going to pay more. I'll tell you, there was a time in my life, it was years ago, that I didn't want to pay more. Why should I pay more? Why should I pay more for organic? Why should I pay more for whole food supplementation? But the thing is after a while, everything is just a belief in your head. If you thought that you could afford it, you would eventually be able to afford it. You would be able to afford it. We limit ourselves by our beliefs. And as soon as we believe that we can eat right for ourselves and eat right for our pets and give them the proper food, you know what? It always seems to work out. We forget who created us, and that we create everything that's in our lives. And we have a caller. Go ahead, caller.
Hi. Thanks
Hi.
for taking my call.
Well, thank you for calling.
Yeah, I have been following the Truth About Cancer Pets, along with Karen Becker and Rodney Habib and Dr. Siegel, and I am, my dog gets raw food that I make, raw food that I buy, I filter my water, I'm doing everything right. I think I am anyway, and has some discharge out of his eyes and out of his penis, and we go to a holistic vet, and we keep trying all these Chinese herbs and supplements, but nothing seems to be working, and I'm teetering on the line of choosing an antibiotic or not, but I really don't want to. I just kind of wanted to get an idea of just some thoughts about that.
Oh, you guys come up with the best questions. So first of all, you addressed food and water, and that's great. You want to make sure that you have all your essential vitamins, minerals, fatty acids, and essential aminos. You want to make sure that's in place as well. And trust that you are doing all organic and filtered with a filter that takes out heavy metals and glyphosate, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Then you want to look at your environment. You want to look at the EMF that's being exposed, the electromagnetic frequencies, because the inflammation isn't caused by one or two things. It's an entire lifestyle, it's the entire program that they're exposed to, and none of us live in a bubble. So that would be the first thing, is I would really go through with a discerning look and check your household, check the volatile organic compounds that are coming off of your carpets, your furniture, your clothing. I would check do you live in Florida?
No, I live in Oregon.
Okay. I don't know if mold is a problem there, but it certainly is in Florida. So for our Florida residents, you want to make sure the air quality in your homes are good. You want to make sure that you don't have pollutants coming in from areas that you weren't expecting. Like if you just bought brand new furniture, guaranteed they have flame retardant in them. And your pets are in the house all the time. So they're exposed to a lot more than you think. You want to make sure that the microbiome is very, very robust. So you want to make sure you're giving a good quality probiotic with prebiotics associated with it. And in my opinion, anything that comes out of a can or a bottle is questionable, because you don't know how long it's been in there. You don't know what those organisms are like. You don't know if they're even doing anything. So I like to do fermented foods, whether you ferment your vegetables, whether you do something like a homemade kefir, but I like to know that the product that I'm giving actually came from nature. And
Yeah, I've been using raw goat milk and raw fish stock and some bone broth.
bone broth is great for the
That you
glycine, for
recommend.
the amino acids, for the collagen. It's great for gut repair. But I didn't hear an enzyme in there, and I didn't hear a real probiotic. We're talking about, goat's milk is great, but I would consider fermenting that goat's milk and then feeding that, because it's all about the
Okay,
bacteria.
great.
Okay.
And if I could
Yeah,
add,
and I have one more question. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to add something too. I mean, if everybody's out of the house, you can turn the EMF off. And at nighttime, if you turn the EMF off, it really does affect you and it does affect your pets. And the other thing is that no matter what you're giving the dog, even if the water's filtered, if the water's not structured, it makes all the difference in the world. Structured water is the ultimate, because filtered water still has 2,500 to 3,000 molecules per droplet. And when you structure water, it brings it down to 6 molecules. And when structured water comes into the body, it actually has a frequency that triggers the aquaporin. And then the actual 6 molecules open up, and it looks just like a little choo-choo train, and it goes right into the aquaporin. So then what it does is it actually hydrates a lot more efficiently, bringing in the nutrition, bringing out the toxins, and then thus reducing down the inflammation. I actually had a client that her pet had a similar situation as yours, and I actually told her that she should take the curcumin cayenne 5,000 that she was on and give the dog one of these twice a day. And she put her on what was called a product that I had her on for her inflammation, which is called black gold humic powder. And it turned it around within just, between the structured water and those two things, it turned the dog around within just probably, I think it was like 4 or 5 days. That was it. So, yeah.
So let's talk about one more area, which we have a tendency to want to keep treating symptoms. But let's not forget that sometimes a good diagnosis is our friend. So whether you want to do it or you take her to a qualified veterinarian, with the eyes, you want to make sure that there's no little tumors coming off the eyelids, that there's no eyelashes that are going into the eye, that there's not something mechanical, tear duct blockages, something as simple as that. There's so many other factors that you need to make sure are not part of the problem, and we're not just chasing down a symptom.
Absolutely.
On the discharge on the penis, if there's not an infection there, male dogs have a normal yellow discharge that they form around their penis. It's just inside the sheath. If you're seeing that discharge, then that dog is not cleaning himself. That's a normal dog behavior. They go down there and they lick. And so if he's not cleaning himself, you're going to see this discharge, which the average person doesn't typically see because the dog is cleaning himself on a regular basis. So then I would look at, why is he not cleaning himself? Does he have back pain? Does he have some other issue that he doesn't feel good? So do go get a good diagnosis, get a good workup, make sure that he's healthy. Cancer rates are so high right now, and the symptoms can be as simple as ADR, which stands for ain't doing right. So it doesn't have to be a real obvious thing. It could be something as subtle as, he's just not quite himself, and not cleaning himself may be that first symptom.
How do you find a good vet, though?
Yeah, he seems to lick it.
How do you find a good vet, though? Like, not that there's not good vets, or bad vets, but how do you find a veterinarian that is more along the line that you're doing, Dr. Siegel?
Oh, wow, that's really a challenge. And I stepped up to the plate again, and I've actually written a program to teach veterinarians how to integrate alternative medicine. There are more and more veterinarians that are hanging that shingle out and having that holistic label. But I think an educated pet owner has to start looking at, what does that mean? What services do they actually offer? Are they recommending a raw diet versus a processed food diet? What are their feelings on vaccinations? I'm not saying that they should never vaccinate. I'm saying, are they using discretion? Are they minimizing the need for doing antibiotics? Are they being more mindful? Are they working on the immune system? So I would interview the veterinarian and read their website, read their blogs, and where are they coming from? And that would be the way I would pick it.
That's so smart. That's so smart. Thank you. Caller, do you have any other questions you'd like to ask?
Yeah, I just want to ask one more question, and that's back to the structured water. I was going to ask prior to you saying that, what do you recommend for filtered water? But you mentioned structured water. Can you explain exactly what that means and how do you go about doing that in your house?
Well, if you want, you can check out my website at docofdetox.com, and you can look at the structured water units. And I have one right here. If you'll take a look on the camera, right there. So you're gonna put this under any tap, or you can run your filtered water through it, and you could run any liquid through that you're going to feed the dog, or any liquid that you're going to give yourself. And remember that structuring takes it. What it does, it creates a frequency that protects you from anything that's bad within the liquid. It also, what it does is it lowers the surface tension lower than any other liquid. So if there's no surface tension, the body doesn't have to work. So think about whether a person isn't feeling good or a pet's not feeling good. They don't have the energy to actually digest the liquid they're taking in. So just think how much energy you would actually save if the water was structured. If it was brought down to just 6 molecules and not 2,500 to 3,000. And I'm telling you, it'll make all the difference. Put your filtered water in a bowl, put your tap water in a bowl, and then put the structured water in a bowl, and the animal will go always to the structured water, okay? Because the structured water has a frequency that will bring in the nutritional easy and bring the toxins out. But the other thing it does, it gets rid of all the other frequencies. Understand, even if you filter your water, you didn't get rid of the frequency of the prescription drugs. You didn't get rid of the frequency of any of the other chemicals, heavy metals in it. Or you didn't get rid of the frequency of the other animals or pets that drank it. So when you take a look at structured water, you can take a look at rain. Why is it that when it rains, that our crops have not changed in over 100 years, but we know that the rain is full of heavy metals and chemicals, and the birds, the bees, the flowers, and the trees are still protected? Well, that's the natural structuring that's done. So what we do is, back in history, people would just drink water they'd get their water from rain, fast-moving rivers, waterfalls. Those were the 3 main choices. Well, you don't have that in the city now, and it's harder to get that. So that's why we use the structure unit. And you believe it or not, when you use structured water, and it's going to be very hard for people to take, but you could actually just spray structured water, one little spritz into the dog's bowl, and it could be just filtered water, and it structures the whole water. It's called the ripple effect. So, and if you were giving the dog any other type of liquid, and you run the liquid through the structure unit, then the absorption of the nutrients and the availability is going to go way up. Okay.
Great, thank you so much.
Right.
And what I like about the system that Dr. Wolfe just showed us is you can carry it on an airplane, and when I travel, that goes in my purse, and I feel much better about the water I'm drinking. I use it at home, of course, but it's nice that it's portable.
And the other thing too is if you can actually take the structured water and actually, if for the dog, if you spray or put the structured water drops just in a dog's eye, it'll really help that as well. Okay, and even bathing in structured water for your pets. Okay, anything, because the surfactant, the factor is going to be, the cleansing factor is going to be way up. Okay, so, yep.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay. All right. So we have another caller. So caller. Hello, caller.
Hi there, Dr. Wolfe. This is Andy Carpenter, Kathleen Carpenter's husband.
Hi, Andy. I hear you just got a new puppy.
We did a week ago yesterday.
See, nobody can get a new puppy anywhere in North America without us knowing it. I mean, that's it, you know? Okay, so...
that's a pretty good breed.
So now you want to know how to have a healthy puppy, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, well then...
And you've already informed Kathleen about the black gold.
Yes.
And our question is that something that we should give Dolly as a routine part of her diet, or is that something?
Absolutely, it's got
incident.
No, it's got 60 minerals in it, and it also carries a frequency with it that is good against parasites, heavy metals, It actually helps to clean the small intestine and make it healthier. With our
Dolly in
black,
her-
with
in
our
her
black,
diet.
pardon?
How
With our-
best to give Dolly the black gold?
Yeah, and also because our humic, the particle size is so small that it's really great with even parasites because they go to eat it, and when they do, that just takes them down. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shall
And
we just?
go
Is it
ahead.
best just to mix it in her water?
Or in the food. You can put it right with the food, and just be
Okay.
easy with it. There's no need to do a lot. She's just a small puppy, so you could just use like
yeah.
maybe about an eighth of a teaspoon. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Once a day. How often?
Oh, you can do that like twice a day, and then just watch her bowel movements. That's it. The bowel movement is the computer, right? It's going to tell you exactly what's going on with her.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then
Good
use
to
this,
know.
and then just use the structured water. Always do that if you can, okay? Because that
We've been doing
hydration
that.
factor, huh?
Been doing that with our first bowl of water and last week, and we'll continue to do that indefinitely.
Excellent. But did you have some other questions about food that you wanted to ask Dr. Siegel, right?
Well, right. We too are a bit conflicted or confused with the whole grain-free situation, which we understand and have been better informed now, having listened to Doctor as she explained earlier. But I guess the raw food diet, and I'm going to be much more particular into what those first 4 or 5 ingredients are in the food that we're giving Dolly. The food that was suggested to us is an organic blend. It's castor and pollock, and so that's where we started. At least it's an organic dog food, and I get the first 5 ingredients, as I recollect, are chicken. I know sweet potatoes and chickpeas were in there, which are both legumes, right? So that we may need to caution ourselves moving forward with this particular product. What do you feel like, Doctor?
No, I agree that, we're trained to read labels a little bit more, but there really should only be your meat product, your fat, your bone, and your organ meat in the diet, along with your vitamins, minerals, and fatty acids. It's really that simple. You want to be as close to that ground up meat, that ground up animal that your dog or cat was designed to eat in the wild. And everything else doesn't need to be in the diet. Those are all the fillers and the things that aren't good. And then go back to realizing that, number one, if it's a kibble, it's a kibble, it's a kibble. Exceedingly high in carbohydrates. Right. It's devoid of digestive enzymes. It's devoid of moisture. These animals were designed to eat 70% of their water in their food. And now they become even more dehydrated. We're just talking about dehydration, and we're contributing to the dehydration. In cats, it's the number one reason that they die is kidney disease. And it's because they're already a dehydrated species that came from the desert. And now you take away 70% of their water intake, and they're not designed to drink that much more. They don't have the instinctual drive to do that. And so they become exceedingly dehydrated. We see urine concentrations in cats over 1050, which is a exceedingly high number. It's almost like sludge going through their kidneys. And the importance of that is if I had a cup of water and I had a swimming pool, here's my cup of water, here's my swimming pool, and I put the same amount of toxin in each, which one would be more concentrated and more of a problem? It would be the cup of water, because there's less dilution to that same toxin. Now we look at all the toxins that we expose our animals to, and when they're dehydrated, you're concentrating those toxins and you're causing so much more damage to the kidneys and every other organ. Very, very important that we feed them a moist diet that has natural enzymes. When we eat real food, it comes with enzymes already packaged in our cells. But when you heat that food over 105 degrees, you destroy the enzymes. They're not there anymore. So all these animals that we're forcing them to use their pancreas to do all the digestion, they can't keep up with that. And they're going to eventually have problems. Does that make sense?
It does. Hey, Dr. Siegel,
That
can I
makes
ask
a lot of
Andy, Dr. Siegel, can I ask a question? So can you give me the breakdown, or give Andy the breakdown, what your formula is going to be with your food?
Yes, we have two formulas. We have the healthy pet formula, which is the healthy animal that doesn't have any problems. And then we have the cancer patient, which we want to get into more of a metabolic ketosis state where they're burning fat over sugar. So one of our diets is about an 85-15 blend, which means the 85 is comprised of the meat, the organ, and the bone. And then the other part is the fat. And then we have a separate product, which is our vitamins, minerals, and our fatty acids. So you, the pet owner, would buy the meat from one company, and then you would buy the mineral, vitamin, fatty acid base from a different company. And in the privacy of your own home, we tell you how much to feed based on body weight. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah, and how can they, like, let's say when you get this all together, um, can they order larger volumes and then put it in? How much could they order? How long does it stay good? And do they have to freeze it, or what do you do with the oil part?
You mean the fat part?
Yes.
It looks like a piece of hamburger.
Okay.
So it's going to come all ground together. The organ meat, the muscle meat, the bone, and the fat are all ground together like a hamburger.
Okay.
And it comes frozen. So it's going to be shipped right to your door, and that part's frozen. The vitamins, minerals, and fatty acids, they come separately. It's a powder for the vitamins and minerals, and the fatty acids are a gel cap. So you feed that based on body weight, and we teach people the proportions of how much of the meat mixture that you're going to feed based on several factors. It's not the same for all. If the animal is overweight, it's a different calculation. If the animal is super active, very, very athletic, they're going to eat a different proportion. If it's a puppy, they're going to eat a different proportion. So if you think about it, in the wild, they don't all eat the same. They eat according to their needs or metabolic requirements.
Mm-hmm.
And we're leaving the model of dump the food in the bowl and just let them free choice feed. That's really not a healthy way of eating. In fact, animals need to do a fast as much as we do. They need to have that at least 12 to 14 hours in between meals in order to have proper digestion. Very, very important. So when we've been feeding them high carbohydrate diets and we've been feeding them free choice meals, we have been the cause of so much of their dis-ease. With cancer rates right now being 1 out of 1.65, it's astronomical. Dogs have the highest cancer rate of any mammal on the planet.
So how do I, as a pet owner, get the information to know, depending on the condition of my pet, and how much am I going to feed it? Now, are you going to have some kind of where they can go online, and if their pet had
Yes.
this condition, or if the pet was this weight or this age, or so? And then one other question too, if you could answer both for me. And then can I order, like, because I can freeze it, can I order in bulk, and then that would reduce the price?
Absolutely. So our food is going to come in 3-ounce little medallions, in 8-ounce medallions, 2 pounds, and 5-pound chunks. So if somebody has a large animal or they have multiple animals, they can take the chub, and then when they get it, it comes frozen. So when they get it, they can defrost it, they can section it into the portions that they need, and then they can refreeze it. So unlike, I don't know if people realize this, but when you buy meat from the grocery store, it's been frozen and defrosted at least 2 to 4 times.
Oh boy.
And I don't think people realize that.
No.
So when you're buying stuff, it's already been frozen and defrosted. And what do we typically do? We buy it, we take it home, and we freeze it again. So you're losing some of the quality, but our product, it's coming right into the manufacturer. It's being made, and then it's being frozen. So we don't go through multiple freezing and unfreezing processes. So the quality of the product is much, much higher, and it's much fresher. And we do high pressure pasteurization. So there's no problems with Listeria, E. coli, and Salmonella. So it's a very safe product.
So are you saying that I should eat my pet's food because it's probably healthier than mine?
It may be healthier. At least our product
Yeah.
is, and we don't have anything synthetic in it.
Right. Okay.
You know, when you read the label, that's
Yeah.
all that should be in it is real food.
Yeah.
I want to make a comment because we were talking about minerals a few minutes ago.
Sure.
And I just want to make a statement that a majority of the foods that all of us are eating, whether it's our pets or us, we're mineral deficient. And in our day and age, I don't think there is a person out there who can be eating enough real food to be able to make up for our mineral deficiencies. So
Well,
we have to do a supplement. We have to make sure we're taking those ingredients in. They are the things that actually run all the biochemical pathways in our body. So when they're missing, we don't freeze like your car. If you were missing the essential nutrient of, say, gasoline, your car is not going to run because it doesn't have any ability to adapt. But we, fortunately, are here to survive. That's our role. And so when we're deficient in minerals and some of our biomechanical pathways or bioenergetic pathways aren't working, we don't freeze. But over time, if that deficiency continues, that's when we see what I call dis-ease. There is no disease. There's health and there's lack of health. And that's the only two things we have. And if there's lack of health, we need to find out why. And vitamins and minerals play a huge role in our health or lack thereof.
So that's why they use so many different additives in not just our food, but in pets' food, because when the minerals and the nutrients aren't there, the flavor's gone. So now they got to put in all these synthetic flavor enhancers just to get, and then basically you're getting hooked, but you're never getting, but the your appetite's never getting turned off. So that's why
Absolutely.
that's why the dog is always going to the kibble bowl, and he's a chubby little bugger, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obesity right now is over 58% of animals are obese or overweight.
Wow. 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 Wow.
Yeah, it's a huge number.
Yeah.
And all the associated inflammation and dis-ease that goes along with that.
Well, Andy, is your dog getting chubby yet, or?
No, we're gonna keep her from being chubby. We'll keep her on a good diet. Now, one follow-up question, Dr. Siegel. You mentioned fasting being just as important for our animals as it is for us. Are you suggesting then just feeding twice a day at say 6 a.m. and 6 p.m.?
You can feed twice a day, or you can feed once a day, or you can feed twice a day with intermittently missing a meal. It's really, there's a condition or a something called hormesis. And it's what our ancestors and what our wild dogs did naturally. They were exposed to extreme temperatures, really, really cold. They were exposed to really, really hot. They worked really hard outside. You know, the wild dogs, they had to catch their food. They had to have high intensity exercise in order to get their meal. And they had times where they didn't get a meal. And that was called fasting. Starvation if you didn't take care of it, but fasting if they were able to eventually find something to eat. And these were natural hormetic stressors. These were things that they were designed to go through. And what it does to the body is it signals the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, to say, hey, we need some energy production here. Can you turn on? Because we got some free radicals. We got some damage coming into the body. We need to be able to take care of that. So think about if you put your arm in a cast and you were not able to move your muscles, what would they do, Dr. Wolfe?
They would atrophy, and then
they would atrophy,
Yeah.
right? Because they're not being used.
Yeah.
When we live a non-hormetic life, we're not exposed to fasting, we're not exposed to extreme temperatures. Our pets, for a lot of them, the most exercise they do is go to the food bowl and go outside to go potty, right? They're not really getting a lot of intense exercise. I'm not talking walking around the block. I'm talking high intensity exercise that would signal the mitochondria to say, whoa, we're needed today, so let's rev up our numbers. Instead, we're living a lifestyle that is so sedentary and so toxic. We're basically telling our mitochondria, hey, there's too many of you. Let's send some of you home because we don't need all these workers. We don't need all this energy. We're not using it. So we literally are allowing our mitochondria to atrophy. And then when we need them, they're not there. So I'm not saying to take and starve your dog. I'm just saying if you watch animals in the wild, when they don't feel good, they do natural hormetic activities like they don't eat. Now, We're not talking about cats. Cats are a whole different species. They have to eat on a regular basis, but they don't need to be eating all day long. They still need to have that fasting period, whether it's every 12 hours, every 24 hours. They need to be able to not be grazing all the time and absolutely not be getting carbohydrates. Cats, more than dogs, cats are obligate carnivores. By definition, they have no dietary requirement for carbohydrates. And when we give them carbohydrates, we are actually creating inflammation, which we know is the root cause of all dis-ease. Did you know that dogs and cats don't have amylase in their saliva? Amylase is the enzyme that we have in our saliva to digest carbohydrates. They weren't even designed to eat them. Nature didn't even put that in their mouths because they were not designed to eat them. And yet you look at every kibble diet and all these canned diets, and they have exceedingly high carbohydrates. If you calculate it, which by the way, they don't put the carbohydrate content on the label for pet food. Isn't that interesting? You have to calculate it. And when you do that, you'll find that your food is anywhere from 40 to 60% sugar. And that's what you're paying for. And these are the high brand names. That we're not talking the cheap stuff. We're talking prescription diets. Bad stuff. Did that answer your question and more? Was that TMI?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Siegel. I'll get off so that you can entertain your next caller.
Wonderful. Send us some pictures of your puppy. Send them on Facebook.
Sure, we'll do.
Thank you.
We'll see you in Michigan in a couple of weeks.
Oh, I'm excited. Please come up and introduce yourself.
Yeah. We absolutely will. Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Siegel.
you.
Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, if anybody's going to be in the Michigan area, I think it's on the 19th. We're having a fantastic event. Dr. Wolfe's going to be speaking. I'm speaking. Ty Bollinger, Del Bigtree, Robert Scott Bell. There's a pharmacist. Mr. Fuchs is going to be there. It's going to be an amazing day. So please come out and join us.
Absolutely. So I think, yeah, everybody, if they go to Theta Living, ThetaLiving.com, you can check that out. And we have another caller. All right, caller, please go ahead.
Hello.
Hi. How are you? Are you there still? Okay. All right. Is there any other callers? Okay, can you bring on the next caller then? All right, caller, how are you?
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, I'm Dr. Siegel's friend from Facebook, and I bought The Truth About Pet Cancer.
Yes, go ahead.
And my problem is I have 17 rescue cats I feed.
Whoa.
And the feeding was very complicated in The Truth About Pet Cancer. Will it be easier with these products?
I think so. And, you know, having a lot of cats like that is very challenging because even feeding them processed food is expensive, yes?
Yep.
So we have done studies with our pet fuel, our pet food additive that has the vitamins, minerals, and the fatty acids. And we found that we can make a dramatic improvement with these animals by simply adding nutrients that they have access to. So if you did nothing else, you could add the pet fuel to their food and you would enhance their diet. The second thing that you could do is integrate some raw in with their diet. You know, the cats they're a lot easier to feed because they're not as big and they don't eat as much. But when you have 17 of them, then that becomes a bigger issue. You know, that's like feeding a Great Dane. So do the best that you can. Number one, make sure that they're getting the nutrients. Number two, make sure you're adding some whole food into their diet, even if you make it yourself. You can take the proportions that we were talking about, like a ground beef, and get some organ meat, make it about 10%, and at least offer that to them. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was there was a university study. Up until now, all these veterinarians and colleges are like, well, there's no studies. How do we know that processed food is so bad? Oh, well, we have a study now. done by a College of Veterinary Medicine in Finland called the University of Helsinki. And they did a study where they had 4 groups of animals. They had group 1 were animals that were just being fed a raw diet. Group 2 were animals that were only being fed a kibble diet. This was all done on dogs. It was only kibble. Then they took a group that was being fed raw and changed them to kibble. And they took a group that was kibble and changed them to raw. So that's what their 4 studies that they looked at. And then they had a variety of markers, inflammatory markers that they looked at to see which of the groups had the lowest inflammatory markers and the longest longevity, and which were the opposite. And what they found, no surprise, that the dogs that were being fed a raw diet had the lowest levels of inflammation. The dogs on a kibble diet had the highest markers of inflammation. And then if they changed from kibble to raw, the inflammatory markers went down. And when they went from kibble or from raw to kibble, the inflammatory markers went up. So not a surprise, it's already what we see in clinical practice, but now we have that study that we can go back and say, we have now proven beyond a shadow of a doubt what is happening in these animals' bodies. So my suggestion to you is try to incorporate some of our pet fuel and then try to incorporate some actual real food so that you're minimizing the amount of carbohydrates and the amount of processed foods that they're getting.
Is it available already?
We are waiting for the FDA to give us our label. So it is really eminently coming. It's on the horizon.
Okay. Well,
We're friends on Facebook, so I'll be announcing
food,
it everywhere on this show. We're going to be sending out emails. We're going to be announcing it in all our social media. So we'll get it out to you as soon as it's available.
I don't trust commercial food, so I cook a lot of my own, but freezing raw is harder. So I'm eagerly waiting your product.
Well, our product is a raw food with a supplement that goes with it, which is your vitamins, minerals, and fatty acids. So it is going to be combining 2 things, but just even getting the pet fuel in, you're going to see a dramatic difference. We've already done some in-house studies, and we've had people come back and say that within 24 hours of just adding the pet fuel, not doing anything else, they can already see their animals feel better. They have more energy. Their live blood studies show their red blood cells expanding and getting much healthier. All the stickiness going away, remarkable changes, bowel movements improving just from getting nutrition, which really speaks to the fact that these animals are extremely depleted.
Is the pet food fuel a third product?
I would call it a second product. So you have your hamburger product is your meat and your organs and your fat and your bone. And then the separate product is your fuel. And then the fatty acids, we've decided, because it was really hard to not let your fatty acids go rancid. So we decided to stay with a separate fatty acid that is coated in a buffalo gelatin. It's an amazing product. And if you were to bite into this, it's the only fatty acid I've ever come across that I know is not rancid. It tastes like sweet salmon oil. So the way they package it, it keeps it from getting any air and it doesn't turn rancid. So technically there's going to be 3 products, and put together they make a complete and balanced diet.
Okay. This may not have anything to do with food, but on the Halo Magnosphere, the home unit.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you use it too much?
Nope, you can't. Your body has innate intelligence. And what the Magnosphere is doing, it's a pulse electromagnetic frequency device that surrounds you. You're sitting inside of it. And what it does is we program different frequencies. The body has the innate intelligence to know what frequencies it needs. And once it gets it, everything else is just discarded. Very similar to how Dr. Wolfe was talking about structured water and how the body knows what it needs and gets rid of what it doesn't need. It's the same principle. It's taking the frequencies that are needed in training to those frequencies and disregarding anything that it doesn't need. So these are the natural frequencies at the low picotesla ranges that are harmonizing with our cells. All the other frequencies that we're exposed to, like your cell phones, your Wi-Fi, the wiring in your home, God forbid if anybody still has a microwave in their house, all of those things are man-made frequencies that are interruptive. So they're actually causing chaos in our cells, and communication is broken down. When you are using the magnosphere, you're reestablishing cellular communication. You're putting the cells back in tune to the frequency that they were supposed to be at to begin with. Imagine that you're traveling and you have a radio station in your car and you start to lose connection to the tower and you start to get static and you're not getting a clear signal. That's an analogy of what happens when we are exposed to man-made frequencies that are creating this static in our bodies and our cells can't communicate. When you go into the magnosphere, you're actually reestablishing that connection to the frequency that you were supposed to be resonating at. So you can't overdo that. That is your body's normal frequencies.
Well, I've been looking, researching, and just trying to decide between stem cells or the magnosphere.
Well, there are two different modalities. Think of stem cells as more of a treatment, and think of the magnosphere more as reestablishing normal communication. We're frequency beings in an energetic universe, and we need to make sure that we're establishing that good frequency of our tissues so that they are working the way that they should. They're two different things. I couldn't compare them.
In your video from PetStar 2, you did say that the magnosphere was probably the most important wellness mechanism.
In my opinion, because it allows you to sleep. It reestablishes your parasympathetic nervous system. And most people live in a very, well, let me explain what the autonomic nervous system is for those listeners who aren't familiar. Imagine your autonomic nervous system has two branches. Can you see my hands? You have a sympathetic and a parasympathetic, and they live on a teeter-totter from each other. So when one is up on the teeter-totter, the other one is down. Or if this one is up, it's on, the other one is off. Your sympathetic nervous system is the one that allows short-term survival. It's involved with helping you to survive danger. Well, the lifestyle that most people live in the United States is one of, you wake up sleep deprived, you eat bad foods, the SAD diet, you have stress at work, you have stress with the family, you have credit card and money stress, you have pet stress, and then you don't get good night's sleep. So all of that leads to the SAD day, which is the standard American day, which involves the standard American diet, which is all the bad foods that people tend to eat. Just go out to any restaurant. I don't care if they're not an organic restaurant, you're eating bad food. So all of that high sympathetic tone is causing your parasympathetic tone to go down. And your pet's entrained to that as well. So you're creating a state of high sympathetic tone for them as well. The magnosphere allows you to shift into a parasympathetic tone, which is the state of healing. So your parasympathetic side is your long-term survival. It's your reproduction, your respiratory system, your kidneys, your digestion, your lungs, your hormones. But if you're staying in a high sympathetic tone, then your parasympathetic tone, your ability to heal, is turned off. So do you see how important it would be to raise your parasympathetic tone, which then allows your body to go into a state to heal? Then you got to do all the other things that allow your body to heal. Make sense?
One real advantage is that I can take the pets in with me.
Oh, absolutely. You can take the family in. You can have friends over. Absolutely. It's a device that really is designed to help everybody just re-entrain back to normal frequencies. And that's just one of the frequencies. When you buy one of the halos, we actually set you up with 4 to 5 different frequencies. And depending on what's going on in your household, if somebody has pain issues, there's frequencies that reestablish minimizing pain. But I always start with, first of all, balancing the autonomic nervous system and getting you in a state of parasympathetic tone so the body has the ability to heal. Step number 1.
So
I think it was.
Dr.
PetStar
Siegel.
2, it was a wonderful presentation about the magnosphere.
Thank you.
Thank
Did
you
you watch
so
it
much.
at MagnaCon? Which one did you watch?
I'm not sure where I saw it, but try and find it and go back and learn more.
Awesome.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
wonderful tool. I suggest you really invest in your health.
Yeah, and my pet's health too.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dr. Marlene.
Good for you.
Bye-bye.
Let me know how it works out for you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So, Dr. Siegel, if somebody wants to learn more about this mechanism, they can call you or come to you or go to your website, or how could they do that?
It's not on my website, but they can call our office and we can give them some information.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Okay. There is another caller.
I love being popular.
All right. So, caller, go right ahead. Hi, caller. Okay.
I may have talked too long on the last call. Sorry.
No, you didn't. You're doing a perfect job. You know, maybe the water was boiling over. Is there anybody else on me? Or okay, all right. So, so today's topic was about grains. So, what's the bottom line? So, really, if you can really bring that home for people and the whole grain brain issue with pets, can you tell us what they should do, what they should look out for?
So, in a nutshell,
Okay.
you don't want to feed grains and you don't want to feed legumes, which are your peas, your potatoes. You can look up legumes and see all those foods that fall into that legume category. So you don't want to feed those. And in fact, even for us, those are foods that we should, if not prepared properly, shouldn't be in our diet as well. I grow a lot of my own food. And for years, when it was black bean season, one of my favorite things was to go out in my garden and pick fresh black bean pods. And I would open them and just literally eat the raw black beans. They were so delicious. I had no idea how much inflammation I was causing in my body by doing that. So I don't do that anymore. I now gather them all together and I put them in a pressure cooker and then I make soup out of it. But it's just a matter of learning. So number one, we want to make sure that we don't have any legumes in the diet. Number two, we want to find as much real food, as much whole food as we possibly can into our pet's diet, as much as you can afford. And if you don't have a pet yet, consider things like, before you buy a pet, what are the needs of that pet going to be? What are the things that you can afford, whether it's exercise or amount of time necessary or amount of space that animal needs? And most importantly, can I afford to feed this animal? Because at the end of the day, if you buy a Great Dane, you got to know that even processed food's going to be expensive, but it's even more expensive to feed them raw until we bring the price down by all of us demanding it. But for now, really put some thought into what are the needs that this animal is going to have, and can I provide that? And if you can't, consider a different breed. Just that has to really come into play, because we're responsible for our decisions, we're responsible for our actions, and we have to take responsibility for that, which means put some mindfulness into the pet. They're not required, they're luxuries, and they are depending on us to take good care of them. It's our duty, it's our fiduciary responsibility. We are responsible for them and we need to do a good job.
Excellent. So before we finish up today, Dr. Siegel, is there anything coming up for you that people should watch out for, or can they get on a list so they know when the pet fuel's coming out, or when the food's coming out, or is there any lectures that you're going to be doing around the country, or can you bring us up to speed?
I would love that. So to answer the first part of your question, if they go and download my free ebook, which is Holistic Healing for Your Pet, it is at holistic with an H, healing vet, V like in Victor, E Edward T Tom, holistichealingvet.com. When you download the ebook, we'll have your address and we'll stay in communication with you. So that would be step number one. And not even next month, in a couple of weeks, we're going to Michigan and we're going to speak at the Theta Living's event, which is a cancer event, helping to educate people on the things that they can do. It's very empowering. That's going to be awesome. And for those of you who go, you will see a video of me eating fire. It's pretty awesome. And then after that, I am in Boca Raton speaking at a salt convention. We have a salt booth and we use salt therapy a lot in our patients. It's wonderful. It's like taking a scrub brush or toothbrush and cleaning your lungs. We certainly have a lot of junk that we inhale over the years, and it's very good to clean that out. And then I'm speaking at the Holistic Veterinary Conference in October, talking about ozone therapy. So I'm super excited to speak in front of my colleagues. And then next year, you and I are speaking in Canada at the Total Health. And I've never been there before, so I'm super excited about that.
Yep, Total Health in Toronto, and that's a really big venue.
Yes, and I'm actually doing a 3-hour workshop with people. I'm going to be teaching them some amazing stuff from muscle testing to all kinds of things that they can do to create healthy things for their pets, including some DIY stuff.
Absolutely. And people, when they come to the Total Health in Toronto, it's a 3-hour training that Marlene's going to be doing. And you can also even purchase the training if you come to the Total Health as well, and you can take that home.
And it's like $30. It's amazing how inexpensive it is.
$30 to come to a 3-hour training on pets. So if you know somebody in Toronto, you want to get them there and you want them to come to it, and then they can actually buy the actual video training as well. So they can take that home and they can share that with everyone.
I have a webinar course that's coming up. It's in editing right now, and it's going to be an entire program that people can purchase for an inexpensive amount that teaches them how to live that holistic lifestyle with their pet, from nutrition to detoxification to hormetic exercises, everything in between. So they'll actually be able to not only know what to do, but we're also teaching them what kinds of equipment they can purchase for home use, not to diagnose their pet, but to be able to empower them to keep their pets healthy. Never, ever underestimate the importance of a good diagnosis, right? Dr. Google can really be harmful. We've had 2 cases in the past month of animals that came in for limping. Ironically, they were both coming in for limping. And when we took the x-ray, one dog had lung cancer and the other dog had not only tremendous arthritis in her spine, but she had huge tumors in her abdomen. And the only reason we even knew that they had no symptoms other than the limping is we took the x-ray. So please, everyone, really be mindful to get a good diagnosis if your animal doesn't feel good. Don't just go to Dr. Google. Just don't think that you can take an herb or an oil. You know, so many people are in essential oils now, and they think they can use all their essential oils to make their pets healthy. Got to have a good diagnosis.
Absolutely. You know what? You got to take your pets to a vet. They're trained for that. So,
yes, and even if they're not holistic, they can run blood work, they can get x-rays, they can do their diagnostics, and then you have an answer. Now you have the ability to seek an alternative opinion as to what else can you do. In my presentation, I'll give away a little piece of it. There are times when the Western skills are critical. Don't throw them away. So we had a puppy that ate a tube sock, long tube sock, and it got stuck in the intestines. Well, there's no amount of herbs and homeopathy that was going to get that thing out of his intestines. We had to go in surgically and remove it. And then we used, of course, all of our alternative skills to facilitate faster healing and pain control and all that. But, you know, that was a Western skill. We went in surgically and removed the tube sock. I've got a video of it, so you'll get to see that.
Teamwork. It's all about teamwork. And that's why, you know,
it's about using all the tools that you have, right?
Yep.
When you get so polarized that you think it's only one way, then you miss out on so many other wonderful things. So I like to practice integrated veterinary medicine. To me, that is using my discernment to say which of my tools is going to give me the best outcome. And if it's a Western tool, then I'm going to pick that tool. If it's an Eastern tool, I'm going to pick that tool. And if it means using them both, well then, how wonderful that I have the opportunity to blend both of those worlds and take the advantage of doing the best of both worlds.
Yeah, all therapies have their place, and when they come together, it can be very powerful.
It's about using it in the right way. Any tool can be harmful if used inappropriately, and when used properly, like anything else, it can be very wonderful.
Absolutely. So we're going to be back on the 22nd of August, and what will we be talking about?
Well, I had a whole list of things. Omi, are you nearby? Because I don't remember what was next. But honestly, I think it's going to segue to where our callers are taking us.
Yeah.
I did have something on the list, though. Was it detoxification, Omi?
Yes, it was. It was detoxification.
Oh, I got it. So I'd like to talk about detoxification. We could talk on detox for weeks.
Yeah, we
but
could.
We'll introduce the subject.
Yes. And then just remember something, everybody. This is your show. I mean, this is Dr. Siegel's show, but it's your show to get the answers for healthy pets. And there's nobody better than Dr. Siegel to answer because, like she just said, you know, she uses Western medicine and she uses holistic medicine and Eastern medicine and brings them all together to give you the most ultimate health for your pet. And that's really what it's all about because we know that people love their pets, right, Dr. Siegel?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to make one more statement. I actually have a veterinary student, a first-year veterinary student who is interning with me over the next 2 weeks. And we were, as she's watching us work throughout the week, and I asked her, what are they teaching you currently in veterinary school about nutrition? And she looked at me and she said, not a whole lot. I don't want you to be angry or frustrated or think ill of your veterinarians. They're only trained to do what they've been trained to do. You know, that expression, you know what you know and you don't know what you don't know. Veterinarians, above any other career, are the most heart-centered people ever in any industry. We work our tails off, no pun intended. Yeah, there was a pun there. We work our tails off and we dedicate our lives to our patients. And above nothing else, we don't want to do harm, but sometimes we don't know any better, which is why I wrote the program for veterinarians, is to teach them how to incorporate alternative medicine into their programs so that they can get those skills and they can get those tools. And it's really becoming a very, very important, necessary, and look to piece of information that veterinarians want to do good. So if you have a veterinarian and you just love that doctor and they're not practicing any form of integrated medicine, please pass my name to them. Let them know there's a program that's actually in editing right now that they'll be able to participate with. They can start out with the introduction and then work their way up into actual hands-on clinical courses.
And that's what it's all about. It's, you know what, until you get new information, you can't do something different. So, you know, it's the same thing with me and with everybody's profession. You know, we do the best we can with what we have to work with. And when we find out something better, then we do it better. So
absolutely.
That's what it is.
It's shifting our belief systems. You started the program with talking about belief systems. Well, what is a belief system? It's a thought married to an emotion that you keep repeating. It's a thought you keep repeating. Doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it wrong. It just gives us an opportunity to ask ourselves, is that belief supporting me or not? And if it's not supporting you any longer, it's a belief you don't need to keep.
Absolutely. So everybody, get your questions ready because we'll be back here for PetStar on the 22nd of August. And we'll start off talking about detoxification, but we will go wherever the wind blows us. Right, Dr. Siegel?
Absolutely. What awesome questions. Thank you, everybody, for participating.
What an amazing show. And I want to thank everybody for their questions. And you know what? It's your questions that make the show because these are the answers that everybody else is seeking. And, you know, we could make them up, but it's so much better that we don't have to. And I want to thank everybody for joining. And I just want to say that PetStar will be on the 22nd of August. It'll begin at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And this coming week on Monday, we have Clayton's classroom. He is the inventor of the structured water units, and he will be talking about the power of structured water and detoxification, August the 13th at 3 p.m., which will be Monday. And then Braveheart is returning on the actual 14th on Tuesday at 10 a.m. in the morning. And I will be answering all your questions on emotional questions. And for those people going through my Braveheart online training, I'm here for you. But anybody who's not taking the training, you'll want to listen to this, or if you've got questions that you're dealing with emotional issues in the tissues or in the mind that you haven't learned how to master, I'm here for you, okay? And then we also have on Hope for Cancer Q&A with Dr. Tony Jimenez, August the 16th at 3 p.m. And that one will be called Creating the Perfect Day to Prevent and to Heal Cancer, Heal from Cancer. So I want to thank my co-host, Dr. Marlene Siegel, because she's amazing. And isn't it such a treat that we actually have a show like this and that she takes the time to do it? Thank you, Dr. Siegel.
My honor. Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us. And have the best day of your life. And go hug your pet. Take care.